Berlin is not your typical city, and this is not your typical story. This is a story of a man who defied two governments at the height of the Cold War and took a little slice of land for himself. What started out as a simple man with a simple desire just to grow some garlic and some onions and some fruit became a symbol of resistance to West German capitalism and East German totalitarianism. This simple man who just wanted a little garden like he had in his homeland of Turkey left a lasting legacy on what used to be the most divisive border in the world. This is the story of Osman Kaleen's garden.
To understand this story, we have to go back in time. In 1961, East Germany constructed the Berlin Wall. Prior to the construction of the wall, Berliners could travel freely between the western section of Berlin controlled by the Western Allies and the German Democratic Republic controlled eastern section of Berlin. During the 50s, Berlin became the main route by which East Germans immigrated to West Germany. By 1961, almost 3.5 million East Germans had fled the east to West Germany, which was about 20% of the East German population. Those that left tended to be young and well educated, which led the Soviet and East German officials to fear that a further loss of intelligentsia would have devastating results for the DDR. To stem the tide of the flood of immigrants to West Germany, the DDR made leaving the country more and more difficult, but this didn't stop the flow. At midnight on the night of August 13, 1961, the police and units of the East German Army began to close the border, and by morning the border had been completely shut off. East German workers tore up streets to make them impassable and installed barbed wiring. This day became known as Barbed Wire Sunday. Concrete blocks began being installed for the wall on August 17th. Additionally, chain fences, walls, minefields, and other obstacles were installed along the length of East Germany's western border with West Germany proper. The wall ran between the districts of Mitte in the east and Kreuzberg in the west. Our story takes place where the wall divides the district at Bethaniendammstrasse. The wall didn't exactly mark the actual border of East Germany. It was built just inside the border so that it wouldn't encroach on West German territory. It was built along Bethaniendammstrasse, but the border actually ran just west of Mariannenplatz, several hundred meters to the west of Bethaniendammstrasse. This created a triangle of land that was East German territory, but it was outside the wall. For 20 years, this land was used by residents as a dumping place for all kinds of garbage and junk and was an eyesore. Osman Kaleen came to Berlin as a guest worker from Turkey. In 1982, he retired from his construction job and settled in Kreuzberg. Quickly, he tired of looking at the eyesore. He decided to take on a project in his free time. He cleaned out the area and planted a garden of onions and garlic, as well as some apple and peach trees. Several weeks after he began his garden, the East German border guard paid him a visit. When they saw he was planting a garden and not digging a tunnel, they allowed him to continue as long as he stayed 3 meters away from the wall. This location was one of the thinnest spots of what came to be known as the death strip, which meant that there were a lot of escape attempts here. In fact, Osman saw 2 people shot over the years while trying to escape. Every morning he would wave at the guards and they would wave back. He would take them onions and garlic, and every year at Christmas they would give him a card and sometimes a bottle of wine. Soon after this initial visit by the East German border guards, the West German police visited him and told him he had to get off the land. He responded that he wasn't afraid of them, that God gave him the land to work. Now, I don't know if God gave him the land, but East Germany certainly did, and it wasn't up to the West German authorities to let him use the land or not. In the 1980s, an anarchist punk scene developed in Kreuzberg, and Osman became a symbol of anti-establishment in the scene. He called the punks his soldiers, and said that they would protect him in his garden. They called him Leo, as in lion, because he was tough and a fighter. Shortly after starting the garden, he built a shed, and over time, the shed turned into a 2-story treehouse built around a tree in the middle of the garden. It is completely wired and has electricity and running water, a bedroom and a study. It became known as the treehouse on the wall. Once the wall came down, Osman's garden was once again in Mitte rather than Kreuzberg. The Mitte council decided to evict Osman, but by that point, he had become a cult hero in the neighborhood. When the neighbors in Kreuzberg learned of the eviction attempt, they stepped in to help, driven with help from the church St. Thomas in the neighborhood. The church provided a centuries-old map of the council that showed that the land actually belonged to the church, which gave them a right to say how the land is used. The council backed off on evicting Osman and redrew the Mitte border, moving the garden back to Kreuzberg.
Osman Kaleen didn't start out to be some sort of rebel leader or to be a symbol of resistance to anyone. He just wanted to have a little garden of his own on a piece of land that wasn't being used by anybody. He turned into a symbol of hope for people trapped behind the wall and a symbol of unity and renewal in a country deeply divided. He brought this neighborhood together and left a lasting legacy on it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please go ahead and hit the like button and make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. Guys, until next time, I'll see you later.